Golriz, thank you so much for agreeing to have a chat about what it was like to work with me. We did a one-on-one container, of course, back in 2023 now, and you've also done some one-off sessions with me. Can you remember how you first discovered me and my work and what attracted you to working with me?
Yes. Actually, where I first discovered you was Spirit Festival, like many years ago. I just moved to New Zealand, and my friend here really wanted to go to Spirit Fest. We went together, and there was a session. I want to call it Dance of the Dragon. Did I get that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, Dancing the
That
Dragon.
you were
Yeah.
one of the Dancing with the Dragon, that you were one of the facilitators of. And I saw something in you. It's not just in the physical realm. There was like an animation for me of a woman fully embodied, moving through the world with grace and truth and vision that was like so attractive to me. I was like, whatever she's doing, I want to be a part of that. Like it was just an articulation of the feminine that was very attractive and kind of something that felt refreshing to me. It wasn't sort of, I couldn't put you in a box that I'd like seen before. And so I looked you up after Spirit Fest. I was like, who is Kara-leah? What does she do? And then I found out about this work that you do with coaching and with, yeah, getting people to really discover their own gems and offering and what might be keeping them stuck or blocked. So it was really cool to know that beyond the somatic kind of dance side of things, there was this other work that we could do together and do together remotely and asynchronously. And that was it. I just reached out. I just had a knowing that this person has something for me, has something medicinal for me. I
Mm.
couldn't have told you what that was other than I really felt uh the way you were moving through the world was with clear eyes, and there was something there that I wanted to harness for myself, like understand too, or unlock in myself. Yeah.
Mm. So, was there anything going on in your life at that moment that particularly inspired or pushed you to book the one-on-one container with me?
Yeah, so I had moved to New Zealand, and it was one of the most incredible decisions we've ever made for our family. I'd left 20 years of living in the States, returning to my home where I grew up as a Kiwi kid. And so this was like a return to home after 20 years of being abroad, starting a family, starting a career. But in that move, it kind of jostled up everything for me because I left all my safety blankets and securities and my friends, my career, and now I was like at the base of the Remarkables, trying to figure out who I was, what I had to offer. I felt a little bit like I was free falling, and everything was available, and at the same time, I was grieving versions of me that I'd kind of left behind. So I was definitely in a state of transition, and I didn't really have a clear vision for what my next steps would be. I felt like everything was topsy-turvy, and even though I knew we'd made the right move, I had to process a lot of stuff around what I'd left behind, which I
Mm.
perceived as like being in the top of my career and having my dream home and like all these like my husband and I basically like did the American dream and then I like abandoned ship at a time where also the US was going and still is, the world, there's a lot of crises. And so I even had mixed feelings about that. Like, shouldn't I stay and roll up my sleeves and heal this country that has given me so much? Like, I had a survivor's guilt that I could like come and be in New Zealand and my children could roam free and climb trees and have this safe, idyllic childhood while being aware that wasn't available to everyone. So I was
Mm.
wrestling with a lot, and I
Mhm.
was feeling quite stretched and feeling like I really wasn't sure of who I was and what I was meant to do next.
Mm. Mhm. And
Um,
do you remember like when you because I do a discovery call of course with people before we
yeah.
jump into a container to make sure it's a match. Do you remember if there was anything that made like that kind of held you back at all, or was it a full fuck yes, let's go, or were there some doubts and fears? And if there were, how did you get over
Sure.
them?
Oh my gosh. No, lots of doubts because One, I was a little skeptical, you know, the word like life coach or whatever is bandied about so much. And I am a child of a psychiatrist, so um, I also understand like to some degree like psychiatry and psychology and therapy and people that have trained for years to be able to do this work. And then there's this like this new age thing of like anyone can just be a life coach and you can just offer that as yourself and it was like okay, I'm gonna trust and be vulnerable with this person. Does she
Mm.
have the credentials? Does she actually, is she going to be safe? Like could there be things that come up while I'm in an emotional state that actually take me off course, like decenter me from my own knowing? um is it worth it? Like, you know, it's an investment and like I'm I'd never done it before. So it wasn't like I was just like jumping from one, you know, life coach to
Mhm.
another. I really was testing the waters on a modality that I had never before done. And of course, there's a part of you that's like, I could just get massages with the same amount of money, or I could like put this into like a class or, you know, buy a dream coffee table, whatever. So for sure, I went in not necessarily like full-blown skeptic, but I wanted to uh, audit and really understand like you and what you offered so that I wasn't, yeah, so that I was being responsible, I guess,
Mhm. Mhm.
and jumping in with the right teammate. Yeah,
Yeah. So what made it a yes? Because it sounds like you were super discerning and a little bit,
yeah,
not, yeah, skeptical in a good way, right? Yeah. So
yeah.
what made it a yes when you said yes?
Um, I think it was, uh, I felt very early on in that discovery call that you really saw me and what I was navigating very clearly. I've always found you to be a really clear mirror and the
Mm,
right chemistry for me because it's not it's very nurturing and very like the feedback loop with you feels very true and very articulate and very perceptive, but also not like overly pandering or trying to like cushion my ego. Like it's just, it's direct. And to be witnessed like that, to have someone that I can just be like, "Brrr," and they can be like, okay, here are the themes. Here is the overarching. Here are some things that I'm hearing as blocks. Like it's so beautiful. It's like such a gift as someone who lives in a lot of like thought loops and writes a lot and is I am perceptive and I do a lot of like self-awareness work, but to have someone else be able to kind of really streamline what
mm,
I'm dealing with and then not only be able to call it out and articulate it, but then to go straight into let's figure out some tools to then move through this or unblock this, or that's huge for me. There was like a practical element to what you offered that I think that was why it was a full body yes. Because it wasn't like, oh, I'm just gonna sit on a Zoom and I'm just gonna vent or cry or, you know, and have this container, which a lot of times I did end up crying. But it was also paired with practical. And so whenever I signed off our sessions, I was left feeling like that was really time well spent. I might be exhausted. It might have like asked a lot of me. But it was always fruitful. Yeah.
mm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so then how would you describe what it's like working with me? Because when you talked about, the difference between therapy and say life coach, yeah. So how would you describe what it is
Mhm.
that I bring in sessions?
Mm. I think, um, okay, so I think a part of what you bring is that you allow two things to be true. I think it's by virtue of maybe your own lived experience, having had both crisis and victory.
Mm,
So there's a few things. One, you're I find you to be a very safe container that also doesn't hold judgment. There's
mm,
never a tenor of judgment coming through our dialogue, where I feel like, okay, now I need to like perform for you or say the right thing, or you're going to hear this thing and you're going to cringe. Like there's a safety net in that. And I think that part of maybe your own lived experience being so varied allows you to like hold a lot without
Mm,
being scared off or without projecting and without making it your business or getting overly like meddlesome. Like you've got excellent boundaries, I think. So there's a safety there.
mm,
Um, I think also you talk to people like they are not just a mind that might be going through some things, but like a whole human. And then that whole human has so much capacity and so much magic, and you really see that and talk to that in someone. So that's like incredibly motivating and honoring. Um, yeah, I don't know that traditional therapists, are going straight into the meat of someone's soul and like bringing that out and allowing them to fully explore that the way that you do, so artfully and with a lot of ease, from what I can tell.
mm.
Um, yeah, it's incredible to have a conversation with someone who talks to you like the highest and best version of yourself
Mm,
because it really invites you to step into that place.
mm.
Um, and there is so much power in that place.
Yeah, yeah, there
So,
is.
yeah.
What would you say were the key takeaways? Like when the container finished, how was your life or your experience of yourself different compared to going in?
Um, I think you really helped me audit a lot of my binary thinking. So, just my design or how I've survived a lot of like, you either have this or this, or you have to make one of these choices, or you can be an artist, or you can be a successful business person. Like, there was a lot of contrast in my thinking of what was available to me, and you kind of dissolved those binaries.
Mm,
It was always like a yes and. Why couldn't you also be like a wildflower artist mom and also be highly successful? It kind of dismantled my binary thinking. I think also something that is so simple, but the way you started every session with just that dropping into my body and dropping into my breath. Um, I can go whole weeks without taking a breath or noticing that I've taken one. And so that's something that stayed with me ever since, is just like that I immediately, freely, without any other need of any tool or anything, can drop into my breath and drop into myself. And it just is so grounding and anchoring. So I took that with me, and although, it can sound simple, it's so profound. And for someone like me who like is a lot of times from here up thinking and moving through the world, just to have that touch point of integration um, was so powerful.
mm,
I think also in a lot of our sessions, something that I loved was, by nature being a storyteller and a filmmaker, I have like this big imagination. And you often invited me to step into my imagination and imagine versions of me or articulations of me where maybe I had no longer been hooked by certain mythology or things that were holding me back, limiting beliefs. So to be able to close my eyes and kind of drop into imagining um, other ways of being, and then really feeling that in my body and getting so clear on that that it's something I can return to. That was such a gift too. Like there's something there that it kind of it created templates inside me that I
yeah.
could return to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that work. I love that. Like the energetic
Yeah.
frequency. It's like, yeah, let's create this, the energetic imprint that you can come back to.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to someone who probably doesn't know me that well, might have just seen me on the internet, but can feel that pull and is considering working with me? What would you say to that person?
I would say that um I would say it's a real gift to give yourself uh, the, I would say that it's a gift to give yourself the opportunity to be seen in your fullness and
Mm.
to um, sort of like detangle and unmesh from some of the things that may be holding you back or causing suffering unnecessarily. Like some of the ways we self-sabotage or have chatter that is nonsense, but we're stuck in that paradigm because it's just what we've always known. And so to have someone who's a bit of a pattern disruptor, but in a loving, kind, generous, thoughtful, very caring way.
Mm.
It is such a gift. So, you know, ultimately what I believe is that this is, the work of helping people step into what they've always wanted or longed for. And sometimes you needed someone to accompany you on that.
Mm.
Um, and I think you're a great accompanier. And
Yeah.
that's awesome. Like, what a gift,
Mm.
to have someone who can hold your hand and walk you through those realms of yourself. And at no time did I ever feel discouraged or, like I said, judged or that something I was, excited about or imagining was too big. Like you're just so good at honoring and um yeah, mirroring back like full belief
Mm.
in someone else, which is medicinal too, you
Hmm.
know.
Mm. Thank you. Any final words? Anything else that you'd like to add, or does that feel
Hmm.
complete?
I guess my final words are it's kind of a little to myself, but it's this idea that, there's so many things and places we can invest our time and our energy that's outward. And we
Mm.
believe like once I do that, then I will feel better or I'll feel stronger or I'll be clearer. And um, so it can be easy to fall into the trap of like, okay, I'll make all these investments out there, and then somehow this thing will like evolve. This was a really good experience for me in realizing like sometimes that investment is that spotlight to me, and that actually rises the tides of everything else I touch. And I think also, um, when you're a person like me who listens to every podcast and reads every self-help book, has a deep spiritual faith, like you can feel a little smug, like I already know it all. Like, what are they going to bring that I don't know? But there is this magic in this container that you create between the two of us. It might be that I do know it, but you help unearth it and bring it to the surface and help me like double down on that knowing. So it's not so much that I was like mind blown by ideas I'd never heard before. You reminded me, hey, I already knew this. It was like tucked maybe really deep and under a bunch of garbage. Let's bring it back up and like anchor to that knowing.
Mm.
So yeah, that's profound too. It's that um I think I learned like this work that I'm doing for myself has a ripple effect on my children, my partnerships, my relationships, my family, my community, and bigger than that to the globe. And I got to fully see that come to fruition many times over.
Mm.
It changed my perception, my vantage point. It changed what I offered people. It changes how I move through the world. These are huge. So yeah, time, resources well spent.
Mm.
I think the real work is also in after the container of like, okay, what's the integration?
Mm.
Like not letting it just be that capsule of like sudden evolution, but then like, okay, the daily practice now of bringing it into my life and keeping
Mm.
it, yeah, front of mind.
Yeah. Mm. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Mm.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for this time together and Yeah, thank you for being alive in the same timeline as me. Honestly, like think about it. Like how cool
Yeah,
to have met and to
yeah,
get to work together. And of all the, billions of people in the world, like I'm really always intrigued by the ones that I'm thrown into community with.
uh-huh,
But yeah, I just am really appreciative to know you.
yeah. Oh, bless. Thank you.